The Valari Empire stretched across dozens of star systems, their crystalline cities gleaming under multiple suns. On the capital world of Valindra, the royal palace towered above the clouds, a shimmering monument of elegance and authority. Princess Alara Vel had spent most of her life within the palace walls, protected and taught to rule, yet the universe outside had always fascinated her. She had read ancient histories of other races, of human explorers who were said to have once traveled the stars, and she had often wondered what courage truly looked like. But she never expected that she would meet it face to face in the most terrifying moment of her life. 10 years ago, when Alara was just a child, her diplomatic vessel had been attacked by space raiders on the far edge of Valari space. The ship, a sleek vessel built for speed and diplomacy, was no match for the raiders' firepower. Sirens screamed and lights flickered as the young princess clutched her mother's hand, her small body pressed against the cold metal walls of the corridor. The raiders' plasma weapons carved through the ship, tearing holes in the hull. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Guards ran in panic, trying to defend her, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Alara's mother screamed as the flames consumed the section they were in. The young princess's mind filled with fear, confusion, and hopelessness. Death seemed certain. Then through the chaos she saw him, a figure moved with precision and determination, seemingly untouched by the flames around him. His suit was battered and scorched, but he walked through fire as if it were water. He was not Valari. His skin was soft, human-like, pale against the harsh orange of the flames. His eyes were steady, and his voice, when he called her name, carried calm authority. "Princess Alara, come with me," he shouted over the roar of the fire. Alara froze at first. She had never seen a human before. She had read about them in old legends, stories of explorers who were said to vanish from history. She thought they were just myths, tales told to inspire courage. But here he was, very real, very human, and very alive. He reached her, lifted her into his arms without hesitation, and ran. The corridor collapsed behind him. Sparks rained down like shooting stars, and walls crumbled as he carried her through the chaos. The princess felt the heat on her face, smelled the smoke, and yet somehow she felt safe. His determination was absolute, and she clung to the thought that she might survive because of him. They reached an escape pod just as the ship's main engines exploded. He placed her inside, gently giving her a reassuring nod. "Stay here," he said. "I will make sure you get out." The pod ejected, and Alara watched the last of the flames swallow the ship. The human figure, her savior, had disappeared into the fire. She never saw him again. For years, Alara remembered that moment vividly. The fear, the heat, and above all, the human who had saved her. She grew up surrounded by luxury and education, trained to lead, and constantly reminded of her responsibilities to the Valari Empire. But the memory of that day stayed with her like a quiet flame, a story she could never forget. She often wondered if he had survived, if he had ever thought about her. She imagined him in a faraway place, a mysterious guardian watching over the galaxy in silence. Yet every historian, every record said humans no longer existed. They were supposed to be extinct, their colonies destroyed, their legacy erased. To believe in him seemed impossible, and yet every time she closed her eyes, she saw his determined face through the smoke. Now, 10 years later, Alara was no longer a frightened child. She was the Princess of Valari, a skilled diplomat and a rising leader. The galaxy was in a delicate balance. The Valari had secured peace treaties with several nearby races, but tensions with the warlike Grath Collective remained high. The Grath were unpredictable, their fleets numerous and brutal, and any misstep could ignite war. Alara had spent weeks preparing for a peace summit, an important meeting where she would represent her people. She was nervous, as every detail could affect the survival of her world, yet she carried herself with grace and determination. She had learned to mask her fear with confidence, as her people expected nothing less. The grand chamber of the summit hall was filled with beings of countless shapes and colors. Delegates from multiple species sat in high chairs carved from rare minerals, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The air was tense with expectation, every movement and glance carefully measured. Alara took her place on the raised platform, her crystal-like eyes scanning the crowd. She was poised and calm, yet her thoughts wandered to the stories she had read of humans. Could they really have existed? Could they still exist somewhere in the galaxy, hiding, waiting? The doors to the chamber opened and an ambassador entered. Ilara's heart skipped a beat. She did not know why, but something about his presence felt familiar. Her pulse quickened and a strange sense of déjà vu washed over her. He removed his helmet, revealing a human face, a face she had never forgotten. Her breath caught. The memory of the flames, the fear, and the rescue came rushing back in an instant. She froze, unable to speak, unable to move. The years melted away, and she was once again the small, frightened child clinging to him as the ship burned. "You," she whispered, barely audible. "You were there." "In the fire." The human bowed slightly. "Captain Elias Ward, United Terran Fleet," he said, his voice steady. "I am here to help, Your Highness." The room went silent. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Stories of their bravery and curiosity were only myths. Yet here stood one, alive, confident, and very much real. The truth of their survival, hidden for centuries, was now revealed. Ilara's mind raced. How had he survived? How had he returned now at this precise moment? She wanted to speak, to ask 100 questions, but the weight of her duty held her still. She could not allow her personal astonishment to disturb the meeting, not when so many eyes were upon her. Elias's presence changed everything. His calm confidence radiated a quiet strength, one that reminded Ilara of the child she had once been. The child who had felt helpless and scared, yet had been saved by a human she could never forget. Over the next few hours, Elias explained his presence. Humanity had not perished. They had retreated beyond the known galaxy after a catastrophic conflict centuries ago. They had rebuilt, learned from their mistakes, and grown stronger in secret. His fleet, while hidden from the galaxy's eyes, had been monitoring events, ensuring that no power would threaten the balance of worlds again. The Grath Collective, he revealed, were planning a dangerous attack. Their goal was to disrupt the fragile peace and gain control over multiple star systems. Elias had intercepted intelligence, and his mission was clear: protect the Valari and prevent a disaster. Ilara felt a mixture of relief and awe. The human who had once saved her life was now here to protect her people again, and she realized something profound. Humans, despite their absence from history, embodied courage, loyalty, and determination in a way that no other race could. Throughout the discussions, Ilara watched Elias work. He did not command with arrogance or seek recognition. He acted with precision, offering advice, guidance, and strategy when needed. The Valari Council members were cautious, yet they could not deny the clarity and insight he provided. Slowly, respect grew in the room. Ilara remembered the small moments of her childhood, the way he had shielded her from flames, the calm reassurance in his voice, the determination that had seemed impossible. Now, as an adult, she saw the same qualities in him, magnified by years of experience and wisdom. He was not just a hero, he was a symbol of hope, of what humanity represented. When the day ended, Ilara walked with Elias to the balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns of Elindra set in brilliant colors, painting the crystalline towers with hues of gold and pink. The city below bustled with life, unaware of the history quietly unfolding above them. "You saved me," she said softly, still overwhelmed by the memory. Elias smiled faintly. "I promised, didn't I?" Ilara nodded, tears of gratitude filling her eyes. She realized that the galaxy had changed in that moment. Humans were back, not as conquerors, but as protectors. And she understood more clearly than ever why the legends had always spoken of their courage and resilience. As night fell over Elindra, Ilara and Elias stood in silence, two figures from different worlds, connected by a moment of bravery and a promise that had endured for years. The stars above them shone brightly, reminding her that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of wonder, and that sometimes the smallest spark of courage could ignite a legacy that spanned centuries. The morning sun cast its first light over Elindra, reflecting off the crystalline towers of the Valari capital. Princess Ilara Vel stood on the balcony of her private chambers, the memory of yesterday still vivid in her mind. Captain Elias Ward, the human who had saved her long ago, was more than a myth now. He was real, and he was here. Ilara could hardly believe it. The human she had clung to during her childhood terror was now standing in the capital, speaking with Valari leaders, advising on military strategy, and commanding respect with quiet authority. Humanity, long thought extinct, had returned not as conquerors but as protectors. And Elias was the living proof. She had spent the night awake thinking about what this meant. Could the Valari trust him? Could the other races of the galaxy? Could they accept that humans, once thought gone, were now part of the galactic balance? She had no answers yet, but she knew one thing. When danger came, she could count on him. The danger was closer than she had imagined. Reports from the Valari intelligence network indicated unusual activity near the border systems with the Grath Collective. Their fleets had been gathering in secret, seemingly preparing for a strike. The summit yesterday had only postponed conflict. It had not prevented it, and now the signs pointed toward war. Elias entered her chambers quietly. He did not announce himself, but she was already expecting him. He moved with the calm confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds before. "Princess Alara," he said, bowing slightly in respect. "The Grath Collective is preparing an attack. We need to act quickly." Alara nodded. "I know. Our scouts have reported their fleet movements. They are gathering near the Zalara system. If they strike there, it could destabilize several key sectors." Elias frowned. "It won't be easy, but it is manageable. I have contacts beyond the known galaxy. Human intelligence has been monitoring Grath activity for years. They won't see us coming." The princess's mind raced. She had been trained to negotiate, to lead, to make difficult decisions for her people, but now she faced something different. She faced a war that threatened her home, and her ally was a human whose existence was a revelation to the galaxy. She had to trust him completely, for her people's survival. "Then we act," she said firmly. "Tell me what to do." Elias outlined a plan. The Grath fleet was powerful but predictable. They relied on speed and overwhelming numbers rather than strategy. Using human tactics combined with Valari technology, they could intercept the Grath before they reached the border worlds. Alara listened carefully, absorbing every detail. She was impressed by the precision of his strategy. Humans, it seemed, had a way of thinking that balanced logic, courage, and creativity. "Your people will follow my lead?" Elias asked. Alara met his gaze. "Yes, I will ensure they do." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Valari engineers worked alongside Elias and his human advisors to upgrade the defense fleets. The palace transformed into a hub of military planning, with holomaps displaying every sector, every fleet, every possible attack route. Alara moved tirelessly, coordinating communications, motivating her people, and learning from Elias at every step. Through it all, she observed him closely. He was calm under pressure, never rushing, never panicking. His confidence inspired the Valari officers, and slowly, their initial skepticism of the humans began to fade. Alara realized that humans had a quality no other species she had encountered possessed, a combination of bravery, loyalty, and cleverness that could turn the tide of even the most hopeless situations. Finally, the day of confrontation arrived. The Grath fleet had advanced to the Zalara system, unaware that a combined Valari human fleet was waiting. Alara stood on the command bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the stars. Beside her, Elias reviewed final tactical reports. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly. Elias nodded. "We have one chance to get this right. Remember, it's not about how many ships we have. It's about strategy, precision, and courage. And we have something they don't expect. The element of surprise." The battle began with a sudden flash. Grath ships charged into the system, expecting easy targets. But the Valari human fleet was waiting. Energy beams sliced through the darkness of space. Shields flared, and explosions lit up the stars. Alara's heart pounded as she watched the battle unfold. Her people fought bravely, following the human strategies perfectly. Elias directed the fleet with calm authority, coordinating movements that seemed almost impossible. In the midst of the chaos, Alara realized something important. Humans, even though small in number compared to other galactic species, had a way of thinking and acting that made them extraordinary. They could see opportunities where others saw only obstacles. They could take risks that others would never dare. And most importantly, they fought not just for power but for ideals, for loyalty, and for life itself. The battle raged for hours. Ships collided, energy beams tore through shields, and debris floated like deadly stars through the void. But slowly the tide began to turn. The Grath, unprepared for the coordinated human strategies and the precision of Valari technology, began to falter. Their fleet scattered, retreating from the Zalara system. When the last Grath ship fled, silence filled the command bridge. Ilara looked around, taking in the sight of her fleet. They had survived. They had won, and much of the credit belonged to the human standing beside her. She turned to Elias. You saved us again," she said softly, awe in her voice. Elias shook his head. "We saved each other," he replied. "Your people fought bravely. I only guided them." The courage came from within. Ilara felt a deep sense of respect and gratitude. Humans were not just strong or clever. They inspired bravery in others. The very presence of one human had changed the course of history, had turned a hopeless situation into a victory, had reminded her people of what they were capable of. In the following days, the Valari celebrated their survival and victory. Tales of the human captain spread quickly, igniting curiosity, admiration, and even hope. Ilara found herself thinking often of the child she once was, the small, frightened girl clinging to a stranger in the flames, and of the adult she had become, learning from the same man who had once saved her. Elias, too, observed the Valari closely. He saw potential in them that went beyond technology or power. They were capable of great courage, compassion, and loyalty. Humans and Valari, despite their differences, shared a common strength, a refusal to surrender to fear, and an unwavering belief in protecting what they loved. Ilara knew that their partnership would not end with a single battle. The galaxy was vast, full of threats and challenges, and she now had an ally who had proven his worth beyond doubt. Together they could face the unknown, protect their worlds, and maybe even inspire a new era of cooperation between species. One evening, after the celebrations had quieted, Ilara and Elias stood once again on the balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light over the crystalline towers. Ilara felt a sense of peace she had not known in years. "You humans," she said quietly, a small smile on her lips. "You truly are remarkable." Elias laughed softly. "We try, but really it's not just humans. It's everyone who refuses to give up, who fights for what they believe in. That's what matters most." Ilara nodded, understanding. She had seen it herself. The courage, the determination, and the loyalty in every Valari who had fought in the battle. And she had seen it most clearly in Elias, the human who had changed her life twice. Once as a frightened child, and now as the princess of the Valari Empire. As the moons climbed higher in the sky, Ilara realized that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was back, and not as conquerors, but as guardians. They were a reminder of what courage, loyalty, and hope could achieve. A symbol that even in the darkest times, a single spark could ignite change across the stars. She turned to Elias, a sense of gratitude and trust filling her heart. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything," Elias smiled. "No need to thank me, Princess. We all fight for the future, and right now that future is brighter than ever." For the first time in years, Ilara felt free from fear. She had faced death, uncertainty, and doubt. She had survived because someone believed in her, because someone refused to leave her behind, and now she knew that the galaxy was full of possibilities, full of courage, and full of hope. The stars above twinkled like distant promises, reminding her that the universe was vast and full of wonder. And for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next, knowing she was not alone, that humans and the courage they represented were back among the stars. The galaxy had shifted, forever changed by bravery, loyalty, and the power of one human who had once walked through fire to save a frightened child. And the story was only just beginning.